Hi, I'm Lance Henriksen. You're watching Brian Lomax's Movie Talk.
Hello and welcome to Brian Lomax Movie Talk. I'm joined today just by a special guest. This is Graham from the channel Man v Film. Say hello, Graham.
Hello, Graham.
Everybody does that every time, never gets old. We're just going to talk about the film War on Everyone, which is the new film by John Michael McDonagh. We both saw this, not together. We just kind of both happened to see it this week, and we felt like we wanted to talk about it. For those who don't know, both me and Graham do a podcast together called Brits on Flicks, which you can download for free on iTunes. But we thought, you know what, while we were recording one of our podcasts, let's review a movie together over on my channel. So that's exactly what we're doing, and we picked this one. Now, I don't know what your expectations were, Graham, going into this. But for me in particular, I was expecting something quite special because John Michael McDonagh, who wrote and directed this, he made one of my favourite films, which is Calvary. A film from a few years ago, absolutely fantastic film. I loved it. I always tell people about it. I always tell people to watch it. And it just really intelligently written, had a very clear focus, and it's just a fantastic film with really great themes, story well told. So I was expecting that kind of writing, and he did a film as well called The Guard, which I've not seen yet, but apparently that, that's had a lot of good reviews. Critics really kind of praised that quite a lot. So, after seeing Calvary and hearing all the great critiques of The Guard, like I say, I was expecting really great things from this film. What about you? What were your expectations going into this?
Well, I knew the director's name, but I hadn't seen any of his previous movies, so I wasn't really too sure what it was going to be like, if it was going to lean towards one subject or another. I had seen a trailer of it, and the trailer that I had seen was really fast cut. It seemed kind of jokey and a little bit actiony, and I wasn't too sure what the tone or what this movie was really about from the trailer. So it just happened to be that it was on at the right time. It fitted my needs, like that night when I needed a certain movie of a certain time span, and I thought, you know what, I like the actors that are in it, or a couple of them anyway. I thought I'll give it a try and see what transpires here. And it's a bit of a weird one to discuss.
Yeah. What's your initial thoughts then? Because I've got to say, for me personally, I'll say that I liked the film, but I didn't love it. And I think, if I'm being honest, it's quite disappointing. Coming off the back of Calvary, which, like I say, made my top 5 for that year. I think it was like 2 years ago. When I did my top 10 list at the end of the year, it made my top 5. Or it was in my top 10. Mm-hmm. If I redid that list now, it would be in my top 5.
Well, it took me a while to settle into the movie initially because I didn't really get the tone of it. I didn't know what it was going for, and I was a little bit on edge for the first 20 minutes till I really settled in. Once I settled in and I realised it was really a sort of tongue-in-cheek comedy that had a little bit of a story behind it, I really started to enjoy it. I liked the performances, and I liked where the movie was going, and I could never really guess where it was going to go to. I couldn't tell where the story was at the start of the movie. At the end of it, when I walked out, I really liked it. It wasn't an amazing movie, but it was something that I had a really strong reaction to. I loved some of the absurd action and the strange scenes that it had in it for seemingly no reason. It didn't seem strongly tied together, and I may get a better sense of that when I rewatch. It was the actual story itself. I didn't find the story really cohesive to start off with, and it wasn't until the latter half of the movie where it sort of tied in little bits at the start that didn't really make much sense but came into play later on in the film.
You see, for me, that like one of the things I love about the McDonaghs, because John Michael McDonagh is brother to Martin McDonagh, who made In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths.
Yeah.
And if you look at their work, it has heavy kind of Catholic themes. So it deals with religion a lot. They deal with religion a lot, particularly like from a Catholic perspective, I guess.
Right.
You look at a film like Calvary, that's all in the title. And whereas in Calvary, I felt like those themes were very focused. They were very much the whole thesis behind the film, so to speak. And the same with Seven Psychopaths, with his brother Martin McDonagh. When he did Seven Psychopaths, there was quite a clear kind of thing going on in that film as well. You could tell what it was trying to say, I guess. Whereas with this one, I don't get that. I feel like those elements are there. There's definitely these religious undertones that kind of weave in and out, particularly with a story that Michael Pena's character tells towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I just feel like it wasn't as focused. I feel like if you're not paying attention, you're not going to find that stuff there.
Yeah, I feel like it's more a kind of fun movie. I don't know if it's really trying to give you a message or send an underlying theme. I think it's basically all on the surface. I don't think there's anything hidden there. I didn't pinpoint anything. That just took it as a fun movie. One of those ones that you just throw on and enjoy. Did you feel as if there was something under the surface, some other underlying theme?
I did, yeah. And there's three key scenes for me. And again, this is me bringing my faith to bear on the film, which is that we have this. I mean, I guess from this point on, I will say to people, spoiler warning. We will talk about this film now with spoilers. There's no way to get around it, really, when we're having this kind of discussion. So if you don't want anything spoiling from the movie, go away, come back and watch this later. But there are three key scenes for me with regards to like thematically where the film is going. And one of them is the scene with the main villain, the main bad guy. We see him with his kids, and he basically tells them God doesn't exist. He says, it's a fairy tale. Your mum's not gone to heaven. She's in a deep, dark hole. God doesn't exist, which is a pretty dark thing to tell your children when your child is asking, has mummy gone to heaven? Where's she gone? But this character, he's a trafficker. He's a trafficker. He traffics kids. He makes them do porn videos and things like that, which he then sells to perverts. And he's the scum of the earth. Yeah. You couldn't get a character that is any more scumbaggy than this guy. He will do whatever depraved thing he feels like doing. And it's like, it goes to, again, like we discussed the Don't Breathe a while back on our podcast, and we talked about the ending of that. And there's a quote in that film. There's a line that Stephen Lang's character gives, which is that when you cease to believe in God, you would be surprised what you're capable of. And basically, everyone in this film seems to be a bad guy, but it's all to varying degrees. And this guy, this main villain, he has no code of honor. He talks about it bizarrely at one point in the film, like snitches have no honor, and it's like, really, you're lecturing someone about honor? Yeah. This guy's got no code of honor whatsoever. He has no values. He has no moral code. He's a scumbag. And he doesn't believe in God. And you kind of feel it, again, going back to the Don't Breathe quote. Don't believe in God, you'd be amazed what you can do. And then you look at the other guys, the cops. Yeah. Michael Pena and Alexander Skarsgard. And Michael Pena, he talks at one point about I can't remember what it was he says, but he says something, and then he's talking about the universe or something, about how it stretches to infinity. Like, we don't know where it begins and where it ends, and how could you not believe in God if that's if that's the case, kind of thing. But then he kind of quips it off and says, like, but I'm full of rubbish, so what would I know, like. But then he tells this story at the end of the film. He tells it to the villain. It's this little anecdote, and he's I have to see if I can try and remember. It's about this classroom where a teacher basically tells his class, right, you got to write an essay right here, right now, explaining to me, like, proving to me why this chair doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And he talks about this one kid just writes 2 words on a piece of paper and leaves, and the words are, "What chair?" And I feel like that ties in to his earlier conversation about God, is that actually you apply what he's just said there to God. It's like, you prove to me God exists. The answer someone can give is what God. So in that respect, it's not for that person to then prove that they exist. It's for you to prove they exist. Mm-hmm. In which case you're going on faith. But then he tells his partner at the end of the film that he actually got the anecdote wrong. Yeah. That he should have said that, prove to me that the chair doesn't exist. But then the answer again is still the same. Mm-hmm. What chair? Which again, it becomes a question of faith. It becomes a question of, relating that to the idea about God, and about these 2 men have this moral code, particularly with regards to once they find out what this guy has done to this kid. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's all over. They go for him. That's the one thing. That's the one line you don't cross. They've been crossing all kinds of lines throughout this film. They're not particularly nice people. Quite amusing at times, but not particularly nice. But they do have a moral code, however slight that might be. They do have a moral code, and I feel like from Michael Pena's character's point of view, it's rooted in the fact that on some small level, some kind of level there, he believes in God. So that's basically going around the houses way of saying, look, does a moral code in society, do people, however bad someone might be, even bad people at times have a certain moral code. They have a certain sense of what's right and wrong. Does that come from a deep-seated sense that there is a higher power, that there is a God? And that's reflected in the fact that the main villain out and out says, there is no God, don't believe in God. And we see that he's got no moral code. So to me, that is what the film is about. That's what it's trying to say. Right. Whether it says it very clearly or very well is up to people to discuss, I guess. But that's what I took from it.
And this is the great thing about perception in movies. I mean, I don't have as strong a faith as yourself. I didn't take that into the movie. I didn't get that at all. It was almost as if it was a series of vignettes to start off with. This is a cool scene, let's throw that in there. This is a wacky character, let's put them into this strange situation. I didn't feel as if there was anything underlying themes along the way like that at all. I just felt it was one of those fun movies that doesn't have anything that is saying at you or talking to you. I can see where you're coming from when you're talking about those scenes. I can see how you could have that perception on it. But it literally, for myself, didn't feel like it had any agenda. I had any themes. It just was a story about these. Well, everybody in it's a bad guy, like you said. Whether they've got loyalty to one another, which is clearly the case in Michael Pena's case. His partner, Alexander Skarsgard, is quite clearly a damaged person. And they don't explain why to start off with, but it comes out in a kind of clunky scene later on when he's getting beat up. I didn't really feel that, but again, I still didn't picture a theme from that or pull any structure out of the movie. I just felt like it was another scene because they felt they had to add a little bit of plot into the movie. It felt like, this is cool, we'll put that in it, that's fun, we'll put that in it. We've had the serious movie with Calvary, we've really struck some themes there. Now I just want to cleanse my palate. I want to do this kind of movie, and then we'll move on to maybe something with a little bit more serious nature in the next movie. I found it just to be silly, fun, a little bit unconventional.
To me, it feels very much like his attempt at doing kind of a cross between a Tarantino film and a Shane Black film. It kind of feels like it's trying to be Nice Guys. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Nice Guys. Like I say, I don't think this is a bad film. Because I was so enamoured with Calvary, I feel like this is a bit of a disappointment. I think maybe on repeat viewings I might get more from it, but I feel like the tone was sometimes a little all over the place. Because like you say, when you first started, you felt uneasy by it, and then you realised it was a comedy. Well, once you get into the final act of the film, it kind of ceases to be a comedy. It actually gets very serious. You're talking about very dark subject matter.
Even when it gets serious, like later on, like there's a callback to earlier in the movie when they're practicing shooting. They're at the shooting range, and one of the cops keeps shooting everybody in the groin. And then it gets to that end fight sequence, when things are a serious nature. He's still trying to shoot people in the groin, and he does effectively in one of the scenes. It's still got that kind of black humour in that violent scene later on.
I didn't actually pick up on that until you. I mean, I find it funny now that you're saying it.
Yeah.
But at the time, I think because where they were and who these people were that they were going up against, I just I don't know, the guy got shot in the balls and all I could think was, justice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's man's justice, but it's I was thinking, justice, you scumbag, that you get what you deserve. But it's so to me there's a problem with tone in the sense that sometimes you actually can't tell sometimes whether he's going for comedy or whether he's going for serious or whether he's trying to do both, have his cake and eat it. And I think on that level it doesn't quite always work. So it does a lot of the time. There were many times throughout where I did genuinely laugh, but at other times I was like, I'm not sure right now.
Yeah, like I said, once I got 20 minutes in and I decided, it's a comedy, I'm going to treat the movie as a full-on comedy, it really became something far greater than I thought it was going to be. I think it definitely is going to need a rewatch. But there's so many things in it that are just strangely comedic choices. First of all, the aesthetic of the movie. When the movie first started, I wasn't sure if it was period set. I wasn't sure if it was in the 70s or something because of the cars, the streets it was on. And then next minute he's destroying an Xbox, and I'm like, oh, right, this has got to be current timeline. And then he goes to see a snitch or somebody that used to be an informant for him, and they're wearing these 80s tracksuits, the kind of Adidas type of thing. And then there's a bar owner that we meet later on that's dressed like somebody out of the 70s, almost like a T-Rex kind of look about him. And it's throwing all these crazy themes at you, and they're not subtle, they're in your face. Even the Lord,
it definitely feels like it doesn't really want to be
any one thing. It's
stuck in a particular place and time. And there was a line as well towards the end, going back to the car. I honestly expected that car to get blown up because there's a moment where
he just taps it.
He literally taps it and he goes, "I love this car. It's indestructible." And I'm like, right, that car is getting blown up, like probably about 10 seconds from now. And they walk up the stairs and you see the car behind them. So I was expecting it to just blow up at that moment. But
I think that's just the movie subverting your expectations again. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It almost does everything in the wrong fashion. And I think that's one of the key points about the movie. You need to see beyond it's leading you down a path, but then taking a left turn at almost every major junction in the movie. It's just so wacky scenes. They go to Sweden. I think it's Sweden. For no reason.
Iceland. Yeah.
For no reason. Just because it's funny. It's a punchline.
No, I love the way they catch the guy, because like they're stood there in the middle of Iceland. It's like just in this city, and you're just like, and they're just kind of like, we're never going to find this guy. How are we going to find him? Just standing here, and it's like we just stand here. He's black. He's how many black guys can there be in Iceland? It's like look, we're not going to find him, and then literally Pena just goes, there he is, and then they just start chasing after him. And it's like, in one sense, it's kind of like it's badly written, because it's like, oh, that's just like cutting out the middleman just to get there faster. But in another sense, that's the genius aspect of it. It's like, actually, why bother coming up with some convoluted way of trying to find this guy? Let's just turn it into a joke and find him. So you laugh it off and then you forget about it.
It's a double joke as well, because you get Pena saying that, and that's funny, and then it cuts to the guy, and everything's grey, drab, beige, and here he is, the black guy in the middle of this city with a bright purple suit on, and amongst all this muted colour, it literally jumps off the screen at you. So you've got a two-hitter. You're laughing at Penna's joke, you're laughing when you see the guy, and that guy I thought was fantastic. There's a bit of one part of the movie where it jumps to that guy, and his friend's giving him a foot rub. It's just so absurd.
But do you not think that there was a gay thing going on between those two?
Definitely, when you see his girlfriend in Iceland. Yeah,
well, they call it out, don't they? I mean, she's clearly a former man, and like the guy even calls it out. He said, "Do you think back home, him and his Irish mate were like,
yeah,
and then he does the whole thing with his hands, which was quite amusing, but."
Explains the matching tracksuits as well.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know.
I think you might be trying to read a little bit too much into it.
I read that there, and I do genuinely think that is there, because I don't think these guys make films without having something to say, and I think the things they have to say are generally rooted in religion, are rooted in Catholicism. I don't know what kind of background they have, but clearly they've got some kind of Catholicism thing going on there, and the name McDonagh sounds Irish to me. I'd imagine they've got an Irish heritage of some kind, so that filters into their work. You look at like I say, you look at his brother's work as well, Martin McDonagh. He did In Bruges, which is all about Catholic guilt and like redemption and all that kind of thing. So that's definitely there. So I think when I go into a film by one of these guys, I'm going to be looking for that stuff, and I did find it here. Like I said, I just don't think it's so as on the nose as, say, with a film like Calvary or a film like In Bruges. But yeah, for me, I mean, I guess we'll come to a close now. We'll just give our final thoughts, and I'll let you go first, Ashley. You give me your final thoughts and your score out of 5.
Okay. Warn everyone, took a little bit of time for me to attune to it, but when I finally did attune to it, I loved it. I thought it was really funny. I liked the performances in it. I liked all the little touches that were in it, even background scenes, things that you weren't looking out for, that just kind of were hilarious when you noticed them. The movie itself, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Like, wow. I really liked it. I did really like it, and I want to see it again before I do my top 10 of the year, because I think it could be in there. It was just that wacky and enjoyable a movie. Don't get me wrong, it could go down on a rewatch, but I really did think it was just genuinely funny, genuinely crazy, and just, like I've said umpteen times, absurd.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think I do think I need to view the film again. When I came out of the cinema, I was kind of thinking 3.5 out of 5. But since I've come away and I've kind of thought about it a bit more, I do think there's a bit of a mismatch in tone at parts. I feel like the overall vision by McDonagh isn't quite as clear as his previous film. Like, his previous film had such a clear vision straight down the line, and I don't think he has that here. It feels a bit more messy, and I get that sometimes that might be intentional, so a filmmaker just wants to have fun, but I don't know, I feel that there are times here where he's trying to say something, but I feel like it's getting lost amongst all the chicanery, and for me that's a shame, because I actually like when he has something to say, like with Calvary. So yeah, and there's a few dark moments in it for me that I know they're going for comedy, but sometimes it verges too much on the edge of distaste.
Yeah.
Probably a bit too much for my liking. So I'm going to go with a 3 out of 5 for this. That may change on repeat viewing. I did like it. I definitely did like it, but I think that there's, just because of my love for Calvary, comparing this with the same director's previous work, there's definitely a bit of a disappointment there for the drop off in quality, I'd say. But that's my opinion. But yeah, anyway, thank you to those for watching. This is our review of War on Everyone. If you enjoyed this, then please comment below and let us know. And if you want to see us do more of these, then again, let us know, and I'm sure we can arrange it. But yeah, let us know what you thought about War on Everyone if you've seen the film. And until next time, thanks for watching.